The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi guys, thank you a lot for dialing into our StorageCraft webinar. My name is Nadia and I'm a StorageCraft product manager here at Data. If you do have any questions or queries, feel free to contact me directly. Today we have Karl Thomson from StorageCraft presenting to us, and off to you, Karl.
Well, thank you, Nadia. So just to let everyone know that we are recording the webinar today. It will be sent out to everyone and available on our StorageCraft APAT YouTube channel. Again, I'm Karl Thomson. I'm a sales engineer based in Auckland. Andrea Martin is my colleague based in Auckland, as well as the business development manager. So what we'll be presenting today is StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So this is a cloud-to-cloud backup for Office 365. And really, for those of you that know me, I'm not big on PowerPoint slides, but I just want to take you through a couple of key reasons to really make you think about why you need to back up Office 365. And it's quite interesting having discussions with partners. We get some response saying, oh, why do we need to back it up? And then other partners that have been doing various different solutions for considerable time and will only quote Office 365 if it actually has a backup solution to complement it. So it's really key. Obviously, when we used to have Exchange servers on the ground, we had a backup solution in place there. We've moved into the cloud. We've got geographical redundancy, we've got high availability, but the key thing we're focusing on here is the data protection. And actually with StorageCraft Cloud Backup, there's quite a few other really cool features that some people are loving it for just in itself, just as a nature of the fact that those backups are there. So one of the key ones is the human factor. You've been working on a key file, you're making a change to a document and you overwrite a document, and you need to get a single document back. You need that granular recovery capability. And this is where you start to look at the limitations of what's actually available. If you think about something like SharePoint, a common scenario where something goes wrong with a file is that Microsoft can take days to recover, but they'll also recover the entire SharePoint library back before that happened. So you're losing that granular capability there. The hackers, cybercrime is obviously a massive thing right now, and I think probably what escalates this problem is the fact that with SaaS applications in the cloud, it makes bring your own devices very attractive. So people, all of a sudden, users are coming in, they're taking work home, they're working on their own devices. They might be outside of the realm of your traditional antivirus or security or firewall related infrastructure. And that opens up the risk to access to this business data and obviously compromising it. So we need to ensure that we've got a backup solution so that we can roll back or locate data before something's happened. The employee that leaves. So, I think it's a pretty big thing. We don't want to be paying for Microsoft licensing if someone leaves, and quite often user accounts can get deleted, and then all of a sudden someone realizes, oh, there was data there that we need back, and it might not be available at all to recover from Microsoft. So that's a big one. And obviously on the flip side of that, a lot of people that I come across love converting users into a shared mailbox. It's basically free storage. We don't need a license there. But then what happens to that used OneDrive stuff? It's now gone. It's not part of that shared mailbox. So there's a whole lot of scenarios where it's then not that easy to get that back, or not available at all, or it's very difficult to even migrate that OneDrive stuff out before converting it to a shared mailbox. So we've got a fantastic solution to deal with something like that. Employee that's gone rogue. I mean, I've done it in the past. Probably wasn't intentional, but I've deleted stuff when I've left the business thinking, they don't need that. I'm going to remove it. To be fair, it's probably more personal related emails or whichever. But this is the thing, right? If someone's going to leave, they could go and delete all their emails. They could do it a few months out, so it's past that sort of 90-day retention that you get, and then it's not available at all. So having the ability to go back and easily just recover an entire user back to before a previous time, or search through all of their history to locate something can be very handy. And then obviously the mishap. So this one's quite interesting. It didn't come to top of mind for me, but they're saying that this is becoming a big rise in these sort of rogue apps that can misbehave or act unpredictable and actually cause data loss. So whether it's going in there and corrupting other data that's affecting your OneDrive or SharePoint or even just the email. So that's interesting, and perhaps it might come from more other devices that aren't so strict on app stores, or people that have modified their phones, or phones that have been breached. But this is becoming very interesting, and again just highlights the need to have a proper backup solution in place. So really, people make mistakes. There's massive security issues. People delete stuff either intentionally or unintentionally, or they overwrite stuff. We need to consider having a backup solution in place. And as I mentioned, when we had emails on the ground in our own hands, we were backing that stuff up. And just because it's in the cloud, it doesn't mean we should forget about that. So let's just jump in to the StorageCraft website and take a little look at some of the benefits with the StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So I've talked about a few of these things. Some of the key features here is it's a cloud-to-cloud backup, so you don't need to worry about on-prem bandwidth or storage. The StorageCraft Cloud will connect directly to Office 365. Our cloud's based out of NextDC in Sydney, so we connect strictly to Microsoft and back up directly. You get a couple of options with where we store the backups. By default, StorageCraft will house it in our own AWS S3 storage within Australia. That's for all of our APAC customers. Or you have an option that's slightly less expensive from us, but we can send it to your own Azure storage, which you could have located wherever. So the AWS option is the default, it's the most attractive. We provide it as unlimited storage, and yeah, that makes it very easy. Now it's obviously all secure, so we're connecting through encrypted API calls to Microsoft to perform the backups. It's obviously accessible 24/7 through our portal, which I'm going to take you through, and obviously it resides securely in Azure or Amazon data centers. One-stop management. So this has been completely tailored for the MSP. You'll see through our MSP portal that you have a one-stop management where you can go in, you can instantly provision a customer. It's completely multi-tenancy, so that any user can log in, perform their own search and recoveries, or even provision it themselves from that point. And then really probably the key thing is the search capabilities, the ability within 2 seconds to instantly search the entire Office 365 tenancy and start filtering to instantly find and recover a single document or email, contact calendar, OneDrive, etc. So very easy. That search is the most powerful thing because we're indexing every backup as it comes in. The recovery is tightly integrated into that search where you can instantly view, download, or restore it straight back into any user in that tenancy. So very easy. And then reporting. So we've obviously got reporting, auditing, that kind of thing, so you can see exactly who's searching for what, who's restored what, and it gives the customer peace of mind to know that the data is not being used correctly. So really, they're the key things. I think on our StorageCraft.com, really, I've just gone into products and then cloud backup. That takes you to this page. And down the bottom, we've got some scenario guides and we've got a bunch of resources. I've actually attached the cloud backup data sheet and at a glance PDF to this webinar, so you guys should see some handouts that you can download directly as well. Otherwise, it's all available through the website. So moving along, I've jumped in here to the StorageCraft Partner Portal. Now, in the Partner Portal, one of the key features is the Managed Service Provider section. So if you're not already a Managed Service Provider, you reach out to our distributors in New Zealand and you can sign up to become an MSP provider. So under here, the service we're looking at today is StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So in StorageCraft Cloud Backup, you will have a section here. Basically, the first sort of column here is for provisioning accounts. Everyone has a free NFR account they can use, and this little plus enables you to provision additional customers. So on the fly, you can create an account, and I'll call this customer E. And click continue. And as you can see, there's a tick box to add in your own Azure account. So by default, this is going to use our AWS S3 storage that we provide as unlimited. But basically, it's very easy. So a couple of clicks and we've created a tenancy for a customer. I'm actually just going to jump into the NFR account because I've already provisioned a couple of services in here. So the first thing you may do, depending on who this is for, is under settings, you might go in and add in an end user. So that can be used at that point. The end user can log into our portal, which is just cloudbackup.storagecraft.com. They can log in with this user you create, and then they can do the rest of the setup themselves. And based on how many users they add in, that will be invoiced back to the reseller, and then they can charge that to the customer. Also, it's great, you might be doing the setup. In most instances, most of our partners would do the setup and configuration themselves, but the business owner may want to log in and perform searches and recoveries, to go through and find exactly what they're looking for, or any particular person. So adding in users is easy. We can have a user here that's configured for warnings and notifications, and as a partner, we could choose to delete the whole account if we no longer required that. But the next step is under services. This is where you will add in the Office 365 account. So all we require is a username and password. That username and password does say here the admin email. Generally, best practice wouldn't be to add an actual Office 365 administrator that's got full access to everything. You'd actually create a separate unlicensed user, and then there's just a couple of key permissions that you would need to assign that user. So just for any of our technical guys on here, I'll just quickly show you in our support documentation. We have got a user guide in here for Cloud Backup. So once this loads up, I'm going to go down to StorageCraft Cloud Backup user guide. And I just want to point out the key thing here in terms of the fundamental steps you need to take to configure an Office 365 account. So just going into configuring Cloud Backup accounts, and in here there's a section here, configuring Office 365 for StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So this just jumps further down the page, and what we're looking for here is this section here, preparing Office 365 for StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So it just talks about here setting up the impersonation rights. So it's literally 14 clicks, and that just makes sure that the user you're using for Cloud Backup has the application impersonation. That gives us rights to all of the mailbox to back everything up across all the users. Then there's one final step if you're using SharePoint to set up the site collection administrator, so that that user also has access throughout the SharePoint. So you're very easy to follow. That's just a couple of key steps to avoid any issues when you're setting up in the first instance. So basically, I've added in here, I've got a various few accounts, and some of them don't exist anymore. But this particular one here, Office 365, is a tenancy I've added in. You can see here, here's the user I've added. I've added in the parent or top level SharePoint URL, and using those SharePoint permissions, I've ensured that this user's got access through all of those SharePoint libraries to go through and back that data up. I've ticked a box here to use the administrative account as the site administrator for OneDrive, so that's just ensuring we can back up everyone's OneDrive. And then by default, automatically add new Office 365 users. So this is not selected by default, so you can turn this on, and that's kind of, I guess, your set and forget button. That's going to make sure that any new users that are created will automatically be enabled for backup moving forward. That will not select everyone for the initial selection. Our licensing is done per active user that you select for backup. So you do that initial selection yourself. And all of the services, so calendar, contact, mail, OneDrive, and SharePoint is all included for each user. There's no additional cost to turn on or off one of those options. It's all inclusive per user. The backups are done every 8 hours, so it's 3 times a day we do a backup, and it's unlimited retention, so we retain those backups forever. And obviously with the AWS option, that's provided as unlimited storage as well. So very attractive, very easy. There's not a whole bunch of options that you have to get confused around in terms of the billing and licensing. The key thing is, if you select a user in this list, that will also include shared mailboxes or resource mailboxes. They will appear in this list. Any of those that you select will be a chargeable user from the StorageCraft Cloud Backup. So I think a couple of these accounts are disabled, so it's actually showing here something's unavailable in these particular backups. But if I just jump down to Karl, this is me, this is my mailbox, it's a current active mailbox. You can see here the most recent backup, everything was done just after, just around 3:30 a.m. this morning was the last backup that's done. It's probably due for another one soon. So from here, Obviously, I have got the ability to select all the users on the page. That would select all users in the tenancy or just all on the page. And obviously, you can go through and see 10 users at a time, going through the list if you want to pick and choose or exclude particular people. If someone left, so for example, Gavin here has left. So if we click on him, I can see that his last backup was in November last year. I have deselected him so that I'm not paying StorageCraft to back that up anymore. However, we have retained all of those backups as unlimited retention. So I can go in and restore that whole user, even though it doesn't exist anymore. So, that's the last available backup. I can click on Restore User. I need to choose a tenancy to restore to. Again, I've got an older one in there. So I click on a tenancy. I need to put in a user. So if I've recreated this user, I might be selecting that user's new mailbox, or I've selected someone else. And then I can choose a date. Obviously, it'll pick the most recent one available if there hasn't been any new backup since. But otherwise, I could go back to a point in time. And then I choose what I want to restore. So for mail, contacts, and calendar, what happens is we connect to the mailbox, we create a folder in the root of that mailbox, and then we restore the whole mailbox. And what I mean by the original directory structure within that. So, if I wanted to restore Gavin to myself, I don't need to worry that it's going to restore all in place and infiltrate my inbox and all my sent items. It's going to put it into a separate folder, which is very easy to find, see, and I can, of course, drag and drop from my Outlook within that. So that's very easy. And then the same thing for SharePoint or OneDrive. We'll create a root folder in the user restoring to, or SharePoint will be in the root of the SharePoint library. And then the items are restored with the existing directory tree within that. So it makes it very easy. I think there's a lot of confusion. I've seen other products that restored in place. And, if someone restored an email from November last year into my mailbox today, I'll be sifting through thousands of emails to try and find it. So this makes it really easy. You can obviously put in whichever folder name you like. So this isn't a big feature. I mean, it's a nice to have, but really the focus is on the granular search and recovery. I believe that's the most attractive function of the solution. So under search, I can come in here and I can search for whatever I like. And we've got a bunch of search terms you can use in here to really filter things. But for example, just to kind of show you, if I search for hello, right, and I'm not going to do any filters, it's obviously going to pull up, millions of emails at this point. So search the word hello, I can see there's a ton of emails. In fact, this is quite a small demo. So it's only found just shy of 600 items. But obviously that's hopeless if I'm trying to drill down and find something specific. So you want to be as specific as possible, as much as you know to filter it down. So for example, it's probably found a bunch of documents, so I might want to filter that by email. And it's obviously searching across all users. So every time you do an adjustment, because it's all indexed, it only takes a couple of seconds, so it's very fast. If I click filter by user, I might want to again filter it by just me. But the idea is every filter you do, it's reducing the search results. So I've now halved it to just 200 emails. So that might be more easier. I could filter it by a date or a date range or a time. We've also got collections, so that's actually going to represent folders, within the mailbox. So I've got sent items, or maybe just one items from the inbox itself, and I've actually now just filtered down to one email. So that's ideal. Obviously, that might not always be the case, but the more you filter, it reduces the search results, making it easier to recover. So I can click on the email as I've just done. Additionally, I could do bulk actions. So I could do a bulk select, restore all those items. Sorry, I'm going to start with selection. So I could do a bulk select all on page. Or none, so don't select any. But then the bulk action, I could export all matching queries, so that if there was multiple pages, it'll export all of them. What an export does, or again, if I just select the particular ones, an export will zip up in our cloud all of those items. So email would be an EML file, and then you can download that single zip file. So that's really handy. I can restore all matching queries, so it's obviously separate to the selection, it's all results, and then I can restore that back into a tenancy. Into a particular user, or again, just restore particular items. Now, in this case, I have selected an individual email. As myself, I might be an admin. It's none of my business, perhaps, what that email is. So by default, we don't show the email. If I click on view, that will get audited to say that I looked at the email. Same if I downloaded or did a bulk section. So what's quite cool is you can look at the audit and see that I searched for something and what I searched for, but it could say that I've restored it back to someone without ever looking at it. So it's, I think we've done quite well in terms of keeping that security level, and allowing someone to audit and see what's been done. So as I mentioned, I can download it as an email, or I can do a simple restore. So I click restore. I need to choose a tenancy, which is done by default, and then I can choose a user, so I can restore to anyone. So I'm just going to restore it back into my mailbox, and then destination StorageCraft Cloud Backup Restore, and I'll put in 2802.201. I might put in the date or something just to be relevant to me when it lands in my inbox. So I'll go ahead here and click on restore. Takes a couple of seconds. Up the top here it said restore started, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the mailbox. So this mailbox I already had open, and I can see that the folder's just been created. It's literally happened straight away. So really, I think it might be my webmail, but basically what I did is I'm just going to click on refresh here. It'll reload, and it's now found that there's a folder structure within it. So if I expand it out, there's the inbox and there's the original email. So very easy. It's instant, as you've seen. The search takes a couple of seconds, a click later, and it's restored, and then a couple of seconds later it's there. So very easy. The same process if I did the whole mailbox. It creates a separate folder. It's not in place, but of course I could drag that email into another folder if I wanted to. So it's multi-tenancy. You can give that access to the the MD or the owner to log in and do their own searches. To find something. If someone's left, they want to know. A contractor sent an email to someone in the company, they might not know who it is, so they can do a search from that particular person. They could search for a particular PO number to find out who in the business has been dealing with something, and it's searching all history since Cloud Backup has been enabled. So it's one of these things, like insurance, you've got to have it in advance to have that protection and that capability. I've got customers that are using StorageCraft Cloud Backup just for the search capability. The backups are less relevant. They just want the ability to search and find what's been done. But obviously being able to recover that becomes very attractive as well. So yeah, that's really easy. If there's any other parts of this that you'd like to see demoed, please punch it in the questions. We're nearing the end of the time. I'm just going to lastly show you the reports. So on reports, we get the backup reports. Now, as I mentioned, I've got a bunch of tenancies in here, hence they're all failed. It doesn't look that hot, but if we click on details to my most recent one here, for example, I can see here I've got a particular tenancy that's got no access to the provider. I can see here my Office 365 for my accounts, SharePoint, Calendar, Contact Mail, and OneDrive. They've all completed and showing me that last date. And I can scroll down here and see the user log. So this is all in this bunch of tenancies. So I've got a bunch of different users here that aren't there, and that's why the listing is unavailable. But I can see here that they've all completed. So that's really good. We then have the restore report. So this is actually going to detail any restores that are done. We can see here the one that I've just done this morning. I've restored an email. You can actually match that up to the audit report. So the audit report's going to say who was logged in, and I've come in as an NFR account, so it looks a little different here. But I've got the date, I've got the restore, and then I can even see the searches that I've done, and it's displaying each of these based on the different filters I was selecting for that hello search. So very easy, we can pull details to get more information each of them. But that's that's really good to be able to match up an audit to see exactly who's been doing what. And then finally, under export, this list, if I've done a bulk export, it will list all of the available exports that I can either download from here or delete them once I've downloaded them. So that, again, is also really handy, so you know exactly who's had access to which data and what's been looked at. But yeah, basically that's it. Under the summary tab for this account, it's telling me for this NFR account how many tenancies I've got provisioned, total users, and the seats that are going to be billed for. And then on the dashboard for the reseller, obviously I get an overview of all accounts, and obviously that's what the billing is going to be based on. So hopefully this has been a good little demo. That really ends my my presentation for today. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to type them in now, and I'll do my best to show you anything you'd like to see, or just discuss anything further. I can see one question here. Actually, it's a really good question around the SharePoint. So with SharePoint, currently today, StorageCraft, and I'm just going to pull this up in the user guide, StorageCraft just backs up the SharePoint online document libraries. I need to be really clear on that. Right now, we're not including the SharePoint pages, lists, templates, assets, or collections. This is, we are in development with Microsoft on some new APIs, and we expect to have this in the next 3 to 6 months. So that is in progress. The document libraries are generally the most concerning. That's containing all of the company data, but it's nice to have some of these other options as well. So I'll just point that out. We don't currently include the team sites. That again is something we're working on with the Microsoft APIs. But yeah, if there's documents inside the SharePoint libraries or in OneDrive, that is going to be backed up if you enabled it. Someone else has asked about public folders, so I'm actually on this page as well. In fact, this talks about the supported service connectors. So right now we are also not including public folders. And anything in this list are ones that we are currently working on to include this in a future list. So public folders aren't today. We're including personal mailboxes, shared mailboxes, and resource mailboxes, all documents in individual OneDrives for business, and all the SharePoint online document libraries. So that should detail what is or isn't included. I'm just going through some of these other questions. Someone said, can you browse to the mailbox folder structure at the point in time rather than use the search? So there's probably some ways we could improve on that particular scenario. However, the way it's designed is I could do, so let me just clear my search results here, and I'll show you how you could do a folder structure. So if I go all of your types, and I could leave, actually, let's go off in a second. So what you can do is you can do an empty search, because you're obviously wanting to detail a whole folder. So if I do an empty search, it's going to pull quite a large result, but again, because it's indexed, it's very quick. So the next thing I might do is filter it by email, because I'm looking at a particular folder structure. Again, it's going to pull everything, and then I'm going to reduce it down to a user. And then what I'll do is I'll use the collections filter to show me all available folders, and then filter the results by that. So I've now said show me all emails for Karl, and then under the collections here, it's now going to list all of my email folders. Yes, actually that hasn't worked, I think. Let me just redo the search. I think because I had a filter already in there, it's just right again. So all emails for Karl, click on all collections. And there we go. So it's pulled up all of my different emails. So I've had various different restores and etc. in here. So that if I then select sent items, it's going to produce all of my sent items here. The filter could then be done by a particular date range or a snapshot date where we did the backup, so that then you could further reduce that to a point in time. So there's various ways, but yes, that's kind of how you would, I guess, filter it based on a folder. Then I could do a bulk action to restore all sent items, matching that query to a folder. Someone's asked, if you aren't backing up all users who access the SharePoint library, will the backup capture everything in the library? So that's a good question as well. So obviously our backups are done by user. So that's important, because the SharePoint data that's getting backed up is the users that own those files. So, if someone leaves, for example, of unselected Gavin, if he owns SharePoint documents that other people are now subsequently working on, that would be a concern. I would possibly consider leaving it ticked, or you would run some sort of PowerShell command shell reset. I'm not entirely sure how that's done, but I had partners that have done that in the past. So yeah, just bear in mind, because it's a per user structure, it's kind of how the API calls work that we have with Microsoft. It is per user based on the documents that they own. I believe in a future roadmap we have the ability, or we are looking at the ability to perhaps treat SharePoint as an individual. It will probably be a different option or feature that to enable, but at the moment it's done per user. So just bear that in mind. It's the users that own the documents. So in a lot of cases, you may be selecting all users to ensure that everything is backed up there. Someone's asked how you can set up the frequency. So there's no way to adjust the frequency. It's done every 8 hours from the minute you enable the first backup, and then it's just every 8 hours. So it's 3 times a day from the time you set it up and enable the first backup that would automatically happen. And the retention is unlimited. We retain all backups forever. So that again is very easy. That's all. We house all of that in our AWS S3 storage, so that's not an extra cost. So I think I've answered all of the questions that have come through. I've talked about. So someone's asked how we should charge our client by using Plus Storage. So obviously you don't need to worry about the storage cost if you're using our AWS storage, which is the default. If you are using your own Azure storage or the customer's own Azure storage, we can license that a little bit cheaper or less expensive, I should say. But yeah, generally you'll like the licensing from us is per user. So you'll get a report back from the distributor that's going to detail each customer and then how many users have been selected for backup at the end of each month. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Someone's just asked, do you see this as an alternative to Exchange online archiving? So Exchange, Office 365 has, the word slipped my mind. There's an option, I think that the archiving is where it retains everything. From my experience, if you're a legal firm or you're someone that can't lose a single, obviously we're backing up every 8 hours, right? So there's a scenario where the email could come in and someone could delete it straight away and you could trash, we can go unnoticed and it would never end up in our backup. So online archiving is going to be required by some people that retains everything. I think that's the difference, right? So the challenge that we see is that may be a requirement, but having cloud backup on top of that is giving you all of this very powerful searching functionality. So that even people that are, the word I actually was referring to is litigation hold. The people that are retaining everything, to use Microsoft's e-discovery is, in a sense, a manual PowerShell command to initiate a search, and then that does an index, and then you have to go and search. And it's not that easy. So as you've seen here, the search is very fast. It's all pre-indexed in advance as the backups come through, making that whole process very easy. So that in itself becomes a very attractive option to complement litigation hold. Online archiving, I think, is a little bit different. I mean, that's just making all of that data available. I mean, if you don't want the data and you're deleting it, you probably wouldn't delete it if you're intending to delete it. So again, I think it would complement those requirements. Someone's just said you've missed this. Can you manage multiple clients, e.g. tenants? Sorry. So the first thing I did was I created an account. So the idea is each of your customers, you would create a separate account. If a customer had multiple tenancies, you can add in multiple tenancies. I've got a couple of different tenancies in this one tenancies in this one account. So yes, there's two different ways. So yes, you can manage that. You can create separate physical accounts that are totally isolated from each other, or for a single tenancy, if an end user or a customer had multiple Office 365 tenancies, you can add them into their one account, so they've got visibility across all of them. So I think it's pretty flexible. In both cases there, of course, this is completely multi-tenancy, so it covers that off either way. Now guys, I'm really sorry, I do have to end. We've gone a little bit over time. I have recorded everything. This will be emailed out to everyone. If you've got any questions, please reach out to myself or Andrea or Nadya. So thank you, Nadya, for putting this presentation together and organising today. And thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully you've seen some value in the solution. And if you are a reseller that's part of our MSP, it's available now to trial under the AnyFire account. If you're not an MSP, go through Nadya to sign up and you have the ability to go and set this up yourself. So very easy, instantly provision. You don't need to raise POs or anything with your distributor. You can just go in and provision it in the bill and it's just handled automatically at the end of each month. So I think it's a fantastic solution and hopefully this has been worthwhile to you. Thanks again. Bye-bye.